You know, when it comes to book to movie adaptations, a lot of people often feel betrayed when a movie doesn't reflect the events of the book. While I do agree with book purists that these types of movies can be plagued by unnecessary changes, there are a lot of times where some of these changes are absolutely necessary, whether it has to do with the movie's runtime, some pacing issues from earlier drafts, or scenes that are very uncomfortable to adapt to the big screen. Ugh. However, just because a movie doesn't follow the book beat by beat doesn't mean the movie can't be successful. Whether or not they're superior to the original source material is highly debatable. But the biggest question is, can a book to movie adaptation be bad despite following the source material? By the title of this video, I think you may know the answer. Okay, let me start off by saying that this movie isn't the worst book-to-movie adaptation ever made, but at the same time, it's certainly not as good as the Gene Wilder version. I remember seeing this movie in early middle school, and when I discussed it with my classmates, they shared the exact same opinion. However, it wasn't until I got into high school where I found out that there were people that actually liked this movie, and when I asked them why they liked it, they immediately echoed the same exact defense.
Well, maybe if you read the original book, then you will understand why people like it so much.
So, out of curiosity, I decided to borrow a copy of the book from my local library to see what all the fuss is about, and after reading it, I didn't change my mind in the slightest. And trust me, I really wanted to give this movie a second chance. But no matter how hard I tried to keep an open mind, I just can't help but to compare it to the original film. But at the same time, I do understand why people like it. While there are a few positives that this movie has to offer, there is nothing that spectacular that stood out to me as an amazing movie. But before we get to the negatives, let's get the positives right out of the way. From a technical standpoint, it is visually stunning to look at. While the visual effects in the older version were pretty good for the time being, I feel like there were some special effects that were starting to show their age a little bit. Also, I love how this particular scene blends together CGI and practical effects so flawlessly. Seriously, I had a hard time trying to figure out which squirrels were real, which squirrels were animatronic, and which squirrels were computer generated. And while there are some shots where the CGI is noticeable, the majority of it still holds up 12 years later. And on top of having a great ensemble of special effects, this movie also has a great ensemble of supporting characters. Seriously, these actors knock it right out of the park. The parents were great, the extras were great, and even Charlie's family members were great as well. But as much as I enjoy the adult actors in this version, I felt like the 4 child actors really stole the show on this one. In fact, I feel like they're slightly better than the kids from the original. While the original portrayed them as greedy and spoiled brats, Burton's version kicked it up a notch by giving them a little bit more of a mean-spirited edge. I guess the only character that is the weakest out of the 4 children is Veruca Salt, but that's because she wasn't as bratty as in the original. I mean, sure, she does get mad if she doesn't get her way, but she's not that threatening enough to intimidate her parents to give her what she wants, as opposed to the original version, where she mostly throws temper tantrums until her parents give in to her demands. But aside from her puppy dog pout of doom, and only one outburst, this Veruca doesn't offer anything that special. But unfortunately, this is where my praises end here. Yeah, aside from having a great supporting cast and visuals that are appealing to the eye, this movie has a lot of things going against it. While the movie does stick true to the original book, I feel like the first act of the movie is very rushed out in order to get to Wonka's factory a little bit quicker. Now, in the original version, the first act focuses on Charlie and the many disappointments he has to face before he eventually gets the golden ticket. In Burton's version, the first act focuses more on a bunch of various side plots that are strung together very poorly. Some of these side plots contribute to the story, some of these side plots go on longer than they should be, and some of these side plots serve no purpose to the story other than to say that they follow the book correctly. While the second act may be better than the first act and the third act combined, there is one major drawback to it, and that is Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka.
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
I think it's about time to address the elephant in the room. or more specifically, the chocolate room. Now, I think it goes without saying that Johnny Depp is no Gene Wilder, and while I do like Johnny Depp as much as the next guy, his performance is completely painful to sit through.
It's in the fridge, Daddy-O. Are you hep to the job? Can you dig what I'm laying down? I knew that you could. Slide me some skin. So, brother?
Yeah, let's just be thankful that this was made in 2005 instead of nowadays, or else it might be saying it's everyday bro with the Willy Wonka flow. While Gene Wilder's portrayal of Willy Wonka is a perfect balance between being serious and goofy, Johnny Depp's portrayal of Wonka is completely immature and annoying. I heard a lot of people defend his acting choice by saying that he's just a man-child who never grew up because of his daddy issues, but it doesn't quite add up considering that Wonka was more mature as a child than he was an adult. It's just very inconsistent. Also, for a movie that's called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, most of the emphasis on Charlie's character is completely shifted around to focus more on Wonka's character. In fact, Charlie is so underdeveloped in this version, I barely even know that much about him. I know that he's a nice kid and that he never does anything wrong, but other than that, this movie reduces his character to be nothing more than just a one-dimensional Mary Sue. Also, am I the only one who thought that Wonka's backstory was completely pointless in this movie? I get that they were trying to hammer in the message about the importance of family and forgiveness, but it doesn't serve a purpose to the movie's plot and it just comes off as filler. Say what you want about the Slugworth side plot in the original, but at least it was necessary in order to tell a good story and develop Charlie's character a little bit more. This, on the other hand, does not progress the plot at all. If anything, it just gives us more information about Wonka's past that really isn't needed. Overall, this movie was just okay. I didn't hate it as much as I did in middle school, but I'm still not a fan of it. The best way I can describe this movie is that it's style over substance. While the visuals are stunning to look at and the supporting cast gave it their all, there is nothing else that's special about this movie. I know that the 1971 version had a lot of changes from the book, but does that really diminish the movie's quality? No, not really, because the movie is good on its own merits. And in case you're one of those people who like the Tim Burton version over the original, that's all fine and good, more power to you. But don't just use the excuse that it's more faithful to the source material than the original movie. That just makes you come off as being smug and dismissive of criticism. Again, if you like it, that's good, but it's just not my cup of tea. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Anyway guys, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.